Welcome back to Wee Willy Wonderfuls video tutorial 12, and in this tutorial we are going to be doing some sewing up and some stuffing. Now this is something that a lot of people do find a bit tricky, so we're going to show you how to mattress stitch, which is a neat way of sewing up. So let's get started. So the instructions advise you to use the cast on thread, which is the one at the beginning, to sew up one of the legs. And then we're going to sew up the other leg and up the back and stuff as we go. So let's get started. So you will need your needle from your kit, or if you don't have a kit, then it's just a wide-eyed needle so you can thread the wool on. So we're going to use one of the threads from starting, and just pop that on our needle. So we're going to turn over and work from the back. Let's ignore all these other strands. And what we're going to do is, these are the toes, so we are going to sew right up the back leg. So we're going to be sewing it together like so. Now an easy way to do it is just, we can loop through all of the little loops on the back to gather the toes. It's just one simple way of gathering it up. So we're just going to go in and out of the threads like so. That'll just gather our toe up for us. Right, and pull that up. So that's the little toes. Pull it tight so we don't want any stuffing peeking through. And now we're going to be working so from the back, and we're going to put that together like so. So what we're going to be doing is sewing up this leg up to the top of the leg here. So what we're going to do to mattress stitch, what we do is we do one stitch at one side. So we're going to go, if you can see the V's, these are the V's of one of your stitch. We're going to go in the little, pick up the ladder between them. And then we're going to go to one at the other side. Just sew up there. It's a little tricky. Sometimes you're not working between the V's because you might not be quite up to that, or you might be at the end of the toe where there isn't one. So just work as neatly as you can. What we're trying to do is do a stitch on one side and then a stitch on the other side, which is quite level with it, just moving up slowly, one stitch at a time. We don't want to leave a big gap, so we wouldn't do this and then work here, because we want it to be making sure it's all gathered up. So just pretty much one stitch at a time is perfect. So one on one side and then one on the other. So we're just trying to keep it even. So we do 2-3 stitches, and then what we will do is gather it like that, and it will actually then pull the two sides together. So it's like we're doing a little ladder up there, and then gently pulling it probably about roughly every 3 stitches. If you leave it to 4 or 5, you might find it's a bit tough to pull, and 1 or 2 you're just going to be doing it all the time. So about 3-ish is about right. So let's do another stitch here. It's not an exact science, but you know, if you're just doing roughly 1 stitch, keeping them level, you'll find you won't end up with a lot of one side left. I'll make the other so you can see there, and then we're just going to pull. Now you've got to pull it so that it's not puckering. If you pull it too much and too tight, it'll all start puckering, but you don't want to leave gaps. So it's just like that. Pop your finger behind it, and you can see there's no gaps there. So we want no gaps, but we don't want it gathered so that it's all wrinkling and puckering up. So we're just carrying on with 1 at each side, and then gently pulling. You can see it's coming together quite nicely. So we're just going to the top of the leg, so again doing 1 at each side like so. Doesn't have to be exact, but just keep them so you're working as opposite as possible. Just, you don't want to be working up here, on there and there, because it'll start pulling around. So you're just looking to get it straight. So we're nearly at the top of the leg there. That's all we're going up to. So let me check. Another couple of stitches I think will be at the top of the leg. Now it's easier to do the second leg first and then go up the back together. Just simpler. Right, so there, we haven't really got a stitch look because we're right near the middle of the leg, so we're just going to go under there. I'm just going to pull it so it's tight. That's it. So we don't want it puckering, we just want it like that. So there we go. So it's sewn up. So now what we're going to do is we just want to secure that. So I'm just going to open it to the inside. And I'm just going to do a couple of stitches, just secure it. So I'm just going to go here. So this is on the inside, the back of the work here. Like so. And then I'll pop that through the loop. Just to give it a knot. So you can do that a couple of times. And then just do that, and then I'm just going to trim that off, so it's just all the knots and everything, the end of the thread are on the inside of your work. So let me show you what we have here. So we've sewn up, and that seam is pretty much on the inside of the leg. So there we are from the front. So now you can see it's taking shape. So that is the seam that we've just sewn down there. You won't see it a real lot, so just keep it as neat as you can, but it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. And now what we're going to do is we're going to sew the back of the other leg again up to there, and then we are going to continue and sew right up to the top of the neck, and this will get narrower as we get to the top. So we're going to start stuffing before we get to the top. So easy to forget to start stuffing, and then you find it's really tricky trying to get it all in. So if we stuff the legs once we've done those, and then as we'll continue at the back, we'll just gently just thread my needle. So we'll just be stuffing a bit at a time just to make our job as easy as possible. So we've threaded the needle for the other one. I'm just going to gather those stitches up again, so I'm just sewing in and out of those stitches like so. And don't forget, in the pattern booklet there are a lot of photographs later on. We put them all together to keep them in the same place, because some people, if you're not a beginner, if someone isn't a beginner, they don't always want hundreds of photos all over the place, because they'll be able to just follow the pattern without that. So we'll pop them all together, but don't forget to keep checking that, because there's a lot that makes it a lot easier by looking at those. So again, we're just going to do roughly a stitch each side. If you feel confident with this, then you can just go to the top of the second leg and then just continue at the back and pop stuff in as you work. You don't want to put a big clump of stuff in. You just want to pull it apart and just use little pieces. And if you're using our ball fibre stuffing, that makes it so much easier. Which that's what is in our kit. But if you like it, a lot of people love it, you want to buy it separate, we do have bags on our website, which is weewoolywonderfuls.com. So here we are. So we're just working our way up here, the back. So every few stitches we're just pulling. Just hold it as you pull. That's it. And then if it does pucker up a bit tight, you can kind of pull it back a bit like that. There we go, that's looking good. So let's continue. It's helpful to have a look at your shape now and again to make sure you're not being left with a lot of leg at one side and not at the other. So just keep an eye on it as you're working to make sure that's not happening. So we've done a few stitches, and then we're just going to gently pull, and again we're going to pop our finger behind it just to make sure that we haven't got lots of gaps. Worst case scenario, if you got to the end and you'd stuffed it and you had some gaps, you could actually just run some more stitches down it to secure it. Right, so we're just about between the legs now, so it's a bit fiddly. It won't be an exact stitch, so we'll just go as near as we can. and we're looking to make sure we don't leave any holes, especially between the legs where we join. It's easier to get holes where you're joining things. So we are nearly at the top of that leg. It's looking good. Look, so we're there. Turn it around now, we can see what's happening. You can pop some little pins or clips to hold the two sides together if you want. It's quite a good idea to pop a clip at the top and then maybe here, just so that when we're working you don't accidentally get to the top and find it's like that, because if it's held together as you're working, it's going to make it just easier. I'm not sure if I've got any here. I'll have a look, see if I've got a clip to pop on, just to give you an idea. I bet I can't find one, now I need one. Oh, I have found a couple in my little bag. All sorts of things in my little bag. I'll show you it there. It's a little case. We do these cotton bags in the shop as well, just to make it easy so you know what things are handy to use. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clip it there. That's not how I'm sewing it, but I'm just to hold the two top edges of the neck in place. And then I'm just going to pop one maybe halfway down, like so, and then I can see. You could use pins here or anything that'll just hold it together. If you haven't got anything at all, then as you're working, just keep checking that the ends are matching up. So now we're going to start working up the back. Now, because we were actually doing decreases along the back, it won't be one straight stitch. It might look a little different. Once you get further up the back, the stitches will look different just because we were decreasing on the edges. So 3 or 4, and then we're going to gently pull. And then we're just going to keep working up the back. Now once we've done a little bit, I like to just get the back started and then we can pop some stuffing in. Let's take my clips back off now. Right, let's get some stuffing in there and then we can see how it's looking. So there's the stuffing. This is one we use, which is ball fibre. If you go like that, you can spread it out and see that it doesn't clump. So it's much easier to stuff and use. So we're going to pop that in the leg, and what we're going to do is give it a little bit of a squish around, and what we're looking for is a nice smooth edge. We don't want it to lump, so we're squishing it until it looks nice and smooth and rounded. Now we want it firm, but we do not want it overstuffed. A lot of people make the mistake thinking more is better. It isn't. If you put too much in, what you'll find is that it all starts looking like it's bursting out the seams. Now, another thing to watch for as well as we're stuffing is we want to get the legs a similar size. So we'll just pull it apart a little bit, pop that in. Just do a tiny bit at a time if you're new to it and you're a little bit, wary and thinking, oh goodness, I don't know what I'm doing. Bit at a time. You can always take it back. If it doesn't look right, you can always just pull it back out. Start again, it doesn't matter. So I've taken your time to get this bit right, because it will give your bunny or the bear or elephant, if you're making those, it will give it a professional looking finish. If it's all lumpy and one leg's fatter than the other, stuffing's showing through the seams, it's just going to look not as good as it could. So we're looking to try and get the legs about the same size. Squish it so it's nice and rounded. Don't put too much stuffing in. I wouldn't fill this area yet, because what you do find then is, as you're working, you end up getting stuffing on your needle and getting it all caught in the seams, and then end up having to pull it all out. Right, so I'm just going to work up a little bit. Pop your clips back on if you want while you're sewing. And then you can see here, look, it's a little bit different where we decreased. So I tend to choose to go just to the other side of it, so that this edge seam, when you gather, gets pulled inside, so it's not really visible as a big line down the back. So then we go, just doing a few stitches, and then we're just going to pull together, and it's gathering it all together neatly. A lot of people get a little bit, you know, worried about this stage, but at the end of the day, if it's not exactly perfect, no one will notice. So just do your best, keep it even, gather every few stitches like so. We'll just check the ends are going to match up okay. Yep, looking good. So I'll do a couple more, and then we'll pop a bit more stuffing in. So what I'm going to do now is pop a bit more stuffing in the body. So don't forget, I'll split it up a little bit and pop it in. And just try and get it as even as you can, spaced out. Oops. So make sure, if you look at it and you think, oh, it looks like a gap there, just pop it down into the gap. So don't put a massive handful in all at once, because that won't work out neat. So you will have to manipulate it a bit, jig it around, give it a squash, and I pull a bit out, push a bit back in. I tend to pop a little bit extra at the front there in the tummy, and it just gives a little bit of a little rounded tummy, which I think is cute. We don't want a bunny with a six-pack, do we? We want a bunny with a nice little rounded tum, much, much cuter. I hope my husband doesn't watch this video, because then he'll have a good excuse why he's got a rounded tum. Right, so we're doing well. Let's pop a bit more in. Look at that, it's looking good. Look, you can really see the shape now. And this is the stitch we'll use throughout when we're sewing up any seams. So we're getting there now, so we're just going to pull it up a little bit. Gather again. Check our ends are going to match up. We're nearly there at the top. So once you're getting right to the top, you will find that it's more awkward to get the stuffing in. So before you get there, before you've got right to the top, make sure you're getting your extra stuffing in. And then there will be a chance to pop a bit more in the neck. So it's good to stuff the neck quite firmly, because if it's too loose, you find your bunny's head might be a bit floppy. Oops. You can always pull it out, and you can always pull it out if it looks a bit lumpy or you're not happy with it. Pull the stuffing out and then it back in again. So we're pushing a bit into that tummy look and pushing it into shape, and just watch out to make sure your stuffing isn't really visible through the stitches. We don't want that. We're nearly there, we're nearly at the top. There's another strand that's from when we cast off there, but we're going to leave that on because that'll be really handy when we're sewing the head on. So we will leave that attached. I love leaving all the threads attached. It just makes it so much easier than having to attach them. If you do find you run short of thread, though, you can always thread a long strand. Probably about 30 to 40 centimetres is good to work with. Put a big double knot in the end of it, and then go in from the back to the front to come out of the front of your work, so the knot is at the back. So you can a little bit extra if you run out. So I'm just going to put an extra stitch or two at the top across there, just because I like it nice and secure at the top. So there we are, looking really good. Now to finish off, we'll use this technique quite a bit to finish off till it disappears. We're going to go on the inside and come out between the stitch, gently pull it, and then we're going to go back in through the same hole and then out again like so. Sometimes it'll pull a little bit of stuff in, don't worry too much. Back in and out again. So we'll do that 2 or 3 times is plenty. And then if we pull it slightly, and trim it quite close. Whatever you do, be careful you don't cut the fabric. And then because we pulled it slightly and it retracts inside, so now the end is lost inside, and because it's been put through the stuffing a few times, it's nice and secure. So there we have it, all done. So still squish it around, and then we will pop a little bit extra just in that neck because we want it nice and firm to give our head nice and solid. And then we're just going to pop this aside for later when we're sewing it all together. Look at that. Oops. Stuffing's getting everywhere. So all done. I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial, and we'll see you again in the next one.